Negative 1 equals negative 3r plus 2r. Draw your line down the middle. Combine your like terms that are on the same side. I have a negative 3r and a positive 2r. Different signs, so I'm going to subtract. 3 minus 2 is 1, and take the sign of the bigger number, which is negative, so this becomes negative 1r. And on the other side I have a negative 1. And here they are multiplying the r by negative 1, therefore I'm going to divide both sides by negative 1. And that leaves me with an r on this side, and a negative divided by a negative is a positive, and 1 divided by 1 is 1. R equals 1 is my final answer. (24) equals 6 times negative x minus 3 is in parentheses. So the first thing I'm going to do is draw the line down the center. We always want to distribute first. So I'm going to get 6 times negative x is negative 6x. 6 times negative 3, positive times a negative is a negative, and 6 times 3 is 18. And then I have 24 on the other side. So I cannot combine my 24 and my negative 18 yet because they're on opposite sides. So if they're on opposite sides, I'm going to do the opposite. The inverse of a negative 18 is a positive 18. And that will give me a 0 pair here. And 24 plus 18 is going to give me 42 equals negative 6x. And they are multiplying the x by negative 6. Therefore, I'm going to divide both sides by negative 6. That leaves me with the x over here by itself, and a positive divided by a negative is a negative, and 42 divided by 6 is 7. X equals negative 7 is the final answer. negative 3 times 1 plus 6r in parentheses equals 14 minus r. So I'm going to draw my line down the center and I'm going to distribute first. Negative 3 times positive 1 is negative 3, and negative 3 times positive 6r. Negative times a positive is a negative. 3 times 6r is 18r. And I'm going to bring down the equal sign, bring down the 14 minus r. It's one thing, if you don't use the expression in the first line, you still should rewrite it just to keep yourself organized. So you could get, at this point, you could get all of your r's onto the right-hand side, or you could move all your r's to the left-hand side. I personally like to keep the variable positive, and so looking at the negative 18r, if I add 18r to both sides, and notice when I write it over here, I line it up with the r, with the like terms, and I know that this is going to make my r positive. So on the left-hand side, all I have now is negative 3. And on the right-hand side, I have my 14, which I'll bring down. And if I have a positive 18r minus r, I have a positive 17r on that side. So now that I have my r's on the right side, I want all the numbers without r's on the left side. So I'm going to take that positive 14 and I'm going to do the opposite. I'm going to subtract 14 so that I can combine it with the negative 3. Negative 3 and a negative 14, I have the same sign, so I'm going to add the numbers, which makes 17, and I'll keep the sign the same. So negative 17 equals, I have a 0 pair, and on this side I have 17r. They are multiplying the r by 17, therefore I'm going to divide both sides by 17. And that leaves me with an r on this side, and a negative divided by a positive is a negative, and 17 divided by 17 is 1. R equals negative 1 is my answer. Negative 4k plus 2 times 5k minus 6 in parentheses equals negative 3k minus 39. So I'm going to draw my line, and the first thing I'm going to do is distribute. Do not forget to write that negative 4k. Even though you're not distributing it, don't forget about it. You're distributing the 2. So 2 times 5k is positive 10k, and 2 times negative 6. Positive times a negative is a negative, and 2 times 6 is 12. Bring down the equal sign and bring down the negative 3k minus 39. Now I look for like terms that I can combine that are on the same side of the equal sign. Over here on the right side, there's not like terms. The 39 doesn't have a k, so I'm not going to combine them. So then on the left side, I have a negative 4k and a positive 10k. So I have different signs, so I'm going to subtract and take the sign of the bigger number. 10 minus 4 is 6, positive 6k. I also have a negative 12 on this side. Bring down my equal sign, and don't forget the negative 3k and the negative 39 on the other side. Now I have the choice. Do I want to bring my k's to the right side or the left side? If I bring them all to the right side, that would mean I would have to subtract 6k. And if I did that, it's going to give me a negative 9k over here. So I don't like having a negative variable, so I'm not going to choose to do that. Instead of moving my 6k, I'm going to move my negative 3k. So the opposite of a negative 3k is a positive 3k. And when I go write it on this side, I write it right underneath the positive 6k. And I get a 0 pair over here. 6k plus 3k is 9k. Bring down the minus 12 and the equal sign. And over here I have a negative 39. Now I need to get that negative 12 to the opposite side to combine it with the negative 39. And to get it to the opposite side, I need to do the opposite, do the inverse, right? So I'm going to add 12 to both sides. And this is a 0 pair here, and I get 9k equals, now I have a different sign, so I'm going to subtract and take the sign of the bigger number. The bigger number is negative, so it's negative, and 39 minus 12 is 27. They are multiplying the k by 9, therefore I'm going to divide both sides by 9. And this leaves me with k equals negative divided by a positive is negative, and 27 divided by 9 is 3. K equals negative 3 is our answer. Twelve times 2k plus 11 in parentheses equals 12 times 2k plus 12 in parentheses. So I'm going to draw my line down the center, and I'm going to distribute on both sides. 12 times 2k is 24k, and 12 times 11 is 132. And on this side I have 12 times 2k is 24k, and 12 times 12 is 144. And I want you to notice what the equation is right now. I have 24k plus 132, and on the other side I have 24k plus 144. So think about what an equation means. It means that there's some number that we're going to plug in for k here that is going to make this side equal that side. Is there any way we can plug in a number and have the left side equal the right side? And if you don't know the answer to that, then you can continue to solve this. So in order to get the k's on the same side, I'm going to subtract 24k from both sides. And that actually leaves me with a 0 pair on both sides. And so I have 132 equals 144. Does 132 equal 144? No, it doesn't. And remember, when you're left with a false statement, the answer is no solution. The answer is there is no answer. There is no number in the world that can be plugged in for k to make this equation true. So your answer is not false. Your answer is not 132 equals 144. Your answer is no solution. Negative 12 times x minus 12 in parentheses equals negative 9 times 1 plus 7x in parentheses. I'm going to draw my line down the center, and I'm going to distribute first. So I have negative 12 times x is negative 12x. Negative 12 times negative 12. A negative times a negative is a positive. 12 times 12 is 144. Bring down your equal sign. Negative 9 times positive 1 is negative 9. Negative 9 times positive 7x. Negative times a positive is a negative, and 9 times 7x is 63x. Now, I don't have any like terms that are on the same side of the equal sign that I am allowed to combine yet. So I'm going to focus on my x's first. If I move the negative 63x to the other side by doing the opposite, it's going to create a positive variable, and that's what I want in the end. So I'm going to make my life easier and do it in the beginning. So the opposite of a negative 63x is a positive 63x. And when I write it over here, I'm going to write it right underneath the like terms. And that gives me a 0 pair on this side. Bring down my equal sign, and I'm going to write what I'm left with over here is a negative 9. I also know I have a positive 144 on this side. And then I have negative 12x and a positive 63x. So I have the different signs. So I'm going to subtract and take the sign of the bigger number. So I know that my answer is going to be positive, and 63 minus 12 is 51x. So I have positive 51x. Now, before I can combine my 144 and my negative 9, I have to get them to the same sides. Right now they're on opposite sides, so I have to do the opposite, do the inverse. So I'm going to subtract 144 from both sides, and when I subtract 144 over here, I get a 0 pair. And on this side, I am left with my 51x equals, same signs. I'm going to add the numbers and keep the sign the same. So I know that my sign is still negative, and when I add 144 plus 9, I get 153. And they are multiplying the x by 51, so I'm going to divide by 51. And that leaves me with x on this side, and a negative divided by a positive is a negative, and 153 divided by 51 is 3. I believe I just misspoke and said a negative divided by a positive is a positive. I meant to say it's a negative. So our answer is a negative 3.